Hi, I'm Nathan Martin from Tennis Fitness, and I'm going to be taking you through... Hi there, Nathan here from Tennis Fitness, and thank you for joining me in this lesson today on sleep. We're going to go through the importance of sleep, how to optimize it, how to basically get it as close to ideal as you can, and the reasons why you want to do that. So let's get into it. All right, before we get started, I just want to tell you a quick little story about what happened with me last night. So I went out down to the beach for dinner with my family. We took some home-cooked food down there. It was great, and the kids said after it, hey, can we grab an ice cream? We do it every couple of months. Sure, we went and grabbed an ice cream, and I had one as well. Now, typically, I wouldn't have an ice cream at night or in the evening. By this stage, it was 6 p.m. So we try to eat our last meal and finish it around 6:30 p.m. and don't eat anything else until the next morning. And the reason we do that, it's what we'll go through in this presentation. There's reasons why we want to do that and get into bed as our body's already sort of digested a lot of that food. So anyway, I had the ice cream. It was quite a big ice cream. I got myself home. I managed to get into bed at 10 p.m, which is a little bit late for me. I was wide awake and I'm thinking, what's going on? And I realised it was from all the sugar from the ice cream. Anyway, cut a long story short, I had a really bad night's sleep. I woke up 3 or 4 times, tossing and turning all night, and the only thing I could put it down to was having that large amount of sugar before I got into bed. So my body's quite sensitive with that because I don't do it often. So it showed me that, you know, I need to be super mindful of having anything that's high in sugar before I get to bed. And it's the same for all of us. We're all in the same boat here with this. So that's just a bit of an example of what happened with myself. So let's have a look at some of the benefits of sleeping. So we're going to have increased energy. Because the more sleep we get and we optimize our sleep, our body's going to be in a better position to function better, which ultimately will mean we'll have more energy, improved physical health. So generally, a better state of repair that we go through with a good sleep, our good sleep cycles, we're going to be in a much better physical place. Ability to manage stress, 100%. You know, if we're a bit fatigued mentally and physically, we're not going to manage stress as well. We're not going to make the best decisions all the time if we're in that state. Improve memory. This is very, very important. So our bodies are smart. So if we've depleted our energy or our energy is a little bit low and we're not functioning as well as we can, everything gets impacted. How our nervous system responds with our moving body parts, etc. So how we move physically, what happens and how that's impaired, but also like what goes on with our mindset as well. So memory is a big part of that, also concentration, better decision making, 100% for you as a tennis player. You want to be making the right decisions at the right time. If you haven't had a good ample amount of sleep and you're fatigued, mentally or physically, you're not going to make the best decisions. Better immune system, definitely, like this, sleep has a big impact on that. When we're sleeping, our body's in a state of repair and rejuvenation. So if we're not getting enough of it and it's not good quality, then our immune system is going to be compromised also. Sharper concentration, okay, we mentioned that with the decision making and improvement in memory as well. So all those things you can see, we want to be ticking all those boxes for you as a tennis player. If we're not, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Okay, so that's why we want to optimize and get our sleep patterns as good as we can. So what's the right amount of sleep? Well, first of all, we'll talk about like the duration, how long ideally we want you to be sleeping for before we move on. So for ages 8 to 18, you want approximately 9 to 12 hours of sleep. Anywhere where you do any research looking into sleep for these age brackets, you're going to come up with these variances. They're pretty universal, and you know, I'm wondering now, you're watching this, what your sleep duration is like most nights. Are you ticking off? If you're a young player or a parent of a young player, are you getting between those 9 to 12 hours sleep per night? Ages 18 and above, okay, obviously the body's starting to slow down where it's at in regards to its growth, so we don't need as much sleep, but we still want to aim between 7 to 10 hours per night. So if you are 18 to roughly 25, I would say ideally you want to get between 9 to 10 hours. Over 25 years of age, you can fluctuate between that 7 to 10 hours. That's what we find sort of works best from an athletic perspective. So there's some markers that you want to be aiming for. We want to be hitting these durations with your sleep. That's step 1 to ultimately optimizing your sleep. Okay, is all sleep the same? No, it's not. Okay, there's good quality sleep and there's bad quality sleep. So I would say from my experience, most people probably more fall into that bad quality sleep because they're not doing everything they can to help optimize themselves before they jump into bed and get to sleep. So sleep quality plays a big part in how well we rest and repair. That's what goes on when we sleep. So if your sleep is light and disrupted, it'll impact your energy levels, immune system, and mood. So think of it like this. You're going into sleep, it's almost like we're topping ourselves up with fuel, and we're also going through a process where within our bodies, everything's rejuvenating and healing and relaxing. It's the body's chance just to shut down and to go through those processes. So if we're constantly waking up and we're disrupting that, then it almost just can't go through the sequence and the steps that it needs to. That's the simplified version of it. So you need to be aiming for 9 to 12 hours of sleep per night, and the sleep needs to be quality, deep, and relaxed. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this, you've had times where you've been away on holidays or you've been quite tired and you've got yourself into bed and you slept for 10 hours and you wake up the next day and you've gone, oh my goodness, I feel incredible. That was the best night's sleep. That's good quality sleep. When you wake up in the morning, a key indicator if you are sleeping well and the sleep quality is good, if you're waking up in the morning and you're feeling refreshed and you're feeling ready to go and your body's not sore and fatigued and you feel a little bit flat. If you are feeling that, there's some things potentially that you're not getting right. We're going to go over some of those right now. So how do we optimize sleep? Great question. So we want to create a regular sleep-wake cycle. This is step one, very important. It's vital that you get this right. Okay, what do I mean by that? An example is you get yourself into bed at 8 p.m. and you wake up at 6 a.m. and you do that, you aim for that for 7 days a week. Okay, 7 days a week and you're in that regular sleep-wake cycle. Okay, now, it's not as effective and you're not going to optimize your sleep if you're doing that 3 or 4 nights a week and then the other times you're getting into bed at 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. and you're waking up at 6 a.m. because that's putting your cycle out. Does that make sense? So you need to be disciplined with your sleep-wake cycles. Very important. Number 2, foods and fluids. Okay, so you want to avoid eating 2 hours before bed, and that would be like the absolute closest length of time you should be eating before you go to bed. Myself, I like to aim between 4, ideally 5 hours before I go to bed. The reason is I want my body to digest what I've eaten, and I generally try to have that dinner meal, one of my lighter meals of the day. I try to have my main meal through the middle of the day, my biggest meal, and then my dinner I like to have almost like 2/3 to half of what I would have at lunch, and give my body the time to digest that food, get into bed. And because when you're digesting and you're breaking down food, you're actually burning energy. Your body's working. You don't want your body working when it's trying to get to sleep or while it is asleep, if that makes sense. Okay, so absolute, the maximum amount of time you want to have is, like that 2 hours before you go to bed. Ideally, you want to have more time away from when you've eaten to when you get into bed. And we want to avoid certain foods and fluids. Okay, so definitely caffeine. I would say if you're watching this and you're a coffee or a tea drinker, I would recommend that you don't have any caffeine after 12 p.m. because you can have that caffeine floating around in your bloodstream. Your body's trying to metabolize it, and it is a stimulant. Okay, some people like coffee. Some people can have it and get into bed, and they feel they would be sleeping better, but when we look at what caffeine does, and it is a stimulant, it will be doing something in your body, even if you don't realise it and you still think, no, I get to sleep easily. Try and not have it just before you go to bed. So my advice would be at lunchtime would be the latest time that you would have a caffeinated drink, and anything that's high in sugar as well. So ice creams, sodas, lollies, chocolates, cookies, anything like that. We want to try to avoid those 3 to 4 hours before you get into sleep as well, because we're going to have a spike of energy, and then it's going to make people feel quite agitated and restless as they get into sleep. That's the reason why. Okay, so next point, create a relaxed state. Okay, so we want to have what we call a wind down routine. What do I mean by that? Well, roughly about an hour before I get to bed, I will go through a process where I try to dim all the lights in the house, depending on where we're at with the temperature where we live, because it's quite hot here for most of the year. I might put the air conditioning on in the bedroom for an hour before I get into bed just to drop that temperature down. I like it around 23 degrees when I get into bed. And part of my wind down routine, I do mix it up a little bit, but I'll just give you a general overview of what I would do. I'll go downstairs into our gym and I will do some foam rolling, a little bit of stretching. So I'll probably spend most of the time stretching, normally about 10 to 15 minutes, anywhere on my body that typically feels tight. Generally for me, it's around my hips and lower back. I'll spend some time doing that. Then I'll do a little bit of breath work. So laying down on the ground, doing some breathing, and I generally through that stage will think of anything that I've done in the day, anything I want to let go of, anything that I want to show gratitude for, and then I'll get myself up into bed, say goodnight if my kids have just got into bed, and I'll jump into bed. Sometimes I might do a bit of light reading as well, but I won't watch TV. Okay, so that's my routine. That's what works well for me. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if I throw an ice cream into the mix, then it shifts how well my sleep is optimized, like what happened to me last night. So I did all the other things, but because I had that high sugary intake, then I actually had a really bad sleep. I haven't had a bad sleep like that in a couple of months. Okay, so find your wind down routine. Rolling, stretching, breathing, meditation. Costs you nothing, takes you about 15, 20 minutes. Why wouldn't you do it? You're going to optimize your sleep, so get that done. Bathroom, this is a big one. Try to use the bathroom just before going to bed so you don't wake up. Sometimes, even though you wake up in the morning and the first thing most people do will go to the bathroom and pass urine. Now, if you know what it's like in the day, if you're busting to go to the toilet, you can feel how agitated you get, and you feel quite, your energy's quite disrupted. It's hard to focus. So you can imagine the same thing happens in your sleep. So some people will just get used to just sort of putting up with it, and they just get a bit restless. They don't really know the impact that it's having on the sleep quality if they need to go to the toilet. So if you do sort of practice going just before you go to sleep, and it will definitely help you sleep a little bit more with a little bit more rest and be a bit more undisrupted. If that makes sense. Avoiding screens 3 hours before sleep. This is a big one for people. So many people, and you may be one of them, you lay in bed at night and you think, no, this puts me to sleep, this helps me sleep, and you're just scrolling through social media, you're looking for something that you're interested in buying, whatever the case, but we're stimulating our brain, okay? So we don't want just our body to get into a sleep of optimized sleep, we also want our brain to shut off. So if you are doing that, or if you're working in bed, and you're concentrating and you're focusing and you're getting stuff indirectly coming at you, your brain's highly stimulated. It's going to take yourself and your brain and your mind hours to shut down from that. So I know this is a bit far-fetched for some people, avoiding screens 3 hours before bed, but just give it a go. And if you are watching this and you're a family person, one thing that we try to do a few times a week as a family is we play board games. We have literally, I couldn't even probably count how many board games we've got. And we will sit around and play a board game. Generally, they're quite relaxed, easy, fun, nothing where we're like really having to focus and be ultra competitive, because that's going to spike us and we're going to, it's almost like a stimulant. We don't want that. It's just fun and relaxed, and we'll do that a couple of hours before we get into bed. Keep it dark, so you want to have your room dark or the environment dark, and you want to, in your house, you want to be trying to dim the lights down a couple of hours before you get into bed. So have the room dark and cool. Like I said, I'm sitting around, you want to be between probably 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And some people, it might be beneficial if the light in your room is quite dark, you've got street lights coming in from outside, etc. You might want to use a mask, and if it's quite noisy where you live, then I recommend you using some earplugs as well if needed. All right, so there's a bit of an overview of what good sleep quality is, why it's important to sleep well, and I've given you some tools that you can use to help optimize your sleep. Now it is over to you to get started with it. Please just remember, when we're sleeping, our body is going through a lot of different processes of repair and recovery and rejuvenation. So we want to make sure that we look after that. You want to look at your sleep as a relationship, okay? You want to respect it, so you respect your body and your mind. So you want to get these things right. Highly, highly important for you. So my last piece of advice is start now. Start using some of these tools and putting some of these things in place to help you, move forward and optimize your sleep. Thanks for watching. Please like our YouTube channel, subscribe to it. We'd love to have you in and around as much as we can. Check out our website, tennisfitness.com. We'll see you soon. Thank you.